sometimes in the season of self-sabotage, you need to unlearn habits, or else when God gives you the blessing that you're asking for, you're not even going to be able to handle it. So learning how to just like let go and say, okay, God, when you're ready to give me what I've asked for, or when you're ready to give me something greater than what I've asked for, I will be here in full surrender, waiting instruction for what you want me to do with that blessing. All right, babies, welcome back to another episode of the Bayleigh Daily Podcast, where we just kind of go inside our brains and let our inner thoughts flow. This episode is going to be all about surrender. So I kind of was hesitant to do this episode because surrender is something that I don't feel like I've mastered enough to be an expert per se on it, but it is something that I feel like I've grown with over the years, and it has made such a substantial difference in the way that I process things by learning how to just surrender. So it's something that I want to share. So looking up the definition of surrender, it says to yield to, a power. And I always struggled with the definition and just with the concept in general, because when you're taught about surrender, you're usually taught in school, like in war, like, oh, there was this battle and they yielded or they surrendered to, this side of the troops. And I always associated surrender with weakness because it's like, no, I'm not going to surrender to anyone. Nobody's going to force me to do something. I'm not going to yield, to anyone. And I think I had to unlearn that definition in order to truly grasp the concept of what surrender means to me in my life, and how ultimately surrender is my kind of like get out of jail free card, my greatest option when it comes to manifesting or getting the things that I want in my life. And I wanted to share that because when I was going through the process of becoming a yoga instructor, a lot of like the teachings would be like, surrender, learn to surrender. And especially when you go into the last phase of yoga class, like you do a lot of poses surrounding surrender. And I would find myself fighting those a lot. Like I would be trying to do, and they call it like a corpse pose, but I would try to be doing a corpse pose where you just lay and you're supposed to turn off your brain and just relax. And I would struggle. Like I'd be like fighting just the simplest surrenders. And I just couldn't push myself to let go of control or relinquish my thoughts on anything. And I started thinking like, okay, Bayleigh, why do you have such a struggle with power, such a struggle with control? Why do you self-sabotage yourself in a way to where if something is not going your way, instead of just letting go and letting God, why do you always feel like you need to push and power through? And I spent a lot of time in prayer, just being like, okay, what's the reflection about? And I came to the conclusion that I just didn't have faith big enough. And it was kind of like, it's not really a fun conclusion to come to. Like it was a slap in the face to God, number one, because I feel like God says to all of us, like, hey, ask me and you'll receive. I'll provide for you. We ask, and then we don't give him a chance to provide anything. We just say, I have a better way. I can do it myself. I'm going to push through. And then we wonder why things don't get done. And it just sucks because it's like, I want things done when I want them done. And my dad is like a very patient person. We would always do Bible study growing up, and he would always be like, Abraham or whatever story we were talking about, they were in a season of surrender. Even like Jesus himself in the Bible was in a season of surrender for like 35 years before anything popped off in his life. And I would always be like, okay, that's great for them. But like, I want things to happen faster in my life. I want things to be clearer for me. I don't think God should have me waiting in a season of surrender. Because I've given him everything that he needs in order to make me successful. And I don't know, like, I just realized like, maybe that's a selfish way of thinking. And it's really, really like, kind of like cocky for us to think like, okay, our specific desires need to be met right away. Like sometimes you're not ready. Sometimes in the season of self-sabotage, you need to unlearn habits, or else when God gives you the blessing that you're asking for, you're not even going to be able to handle it. So learning how to just like let go and say, okay, God, when you're ready to give me what I've asked for, or when you're ready to give me something greater than what I've asked for, I will be here in full surrender, waiting instruction for what you want me to do with that blessing. Versus, oh, I asked God for something and he should have given it to me right away. Maybe your desires were not where they needed to be. Maybe you had selfish intentions. Maybe it's somebody else's season and you just need to learn how to sit and be blessed and be grateful and be happy with where you are in life. So I thought a lot about that, guys. And I was like, okay, all right. Especially now, like in the season that I'm in right now, I have every single thing that I've ever prayed for in my life, but I'm an overachiever. I'm a very type A person. I feel like I'm not doing enough in life unless God is actively blessing me and I can show those blessings in like a physical form. And in my prayer time, God just really was like, hey, you just need to learn how to surrender. You need to learn how to stop and be grateful for the space that you're in. Or else you're never going to be happy. You're never going to get to a place where you can feel satisfied in the things that you have, because you're just always going to be chasing that next high and chasing that next accomplishment, achievement, that next burst of attention. And so I've had to learn how to sit and not sulk and not give myself a pity party. And I will say this, that time of surrender has been the best time of my life. God has really opened doors for me that I wasn't even expecting. He's really changed my perspective on things, just blessings in general of, hey, you're sitting right now as we speak in answered prayers. You are no longer in fight or flight mode. You're no longer having to struggle financially. You have a man that loves you. You have healthy, children, have good relationships with people all around you. And you would not have been able to stop and see this if you wouldn't have surrendered, just to the moment. Stop, look around, smell the roses, and really just like sat in those blessings. And now I can pivot you and I can put you in a place that sets you up for something even better, because you're not so antsy. You're not anticipating all the time. You're not, bucking, forcing things to happen and putting puzzle pieces in places where they don't fit. You're allowing things to flow. And now I can kind of put you in the current of blessings and it's coming towards you instead of me fighting uphill. So, I would just like encourage every single, one of you that have been like talking to me about it, of like, I've been praying for a man and he's just not showing up, or I really have been, working my butt off, to be seen in this role at work, or I've been doing all this stuff. And I know the frustration is there, but I would encourage y'all to just stop and say, okay, God, enough is enough. I've put in the work. I've asked. You say, if I ask, then I'll receive. There's nothing to do but 3 steps. You ask, it's given, God grants it, and then you get out of the way. So a lot of y'all just need to lower your resistance, get out of your way, and learn to surrender in order for those blessings to come. And I know it's going to be hard for a lot of us. It's hard for me. But if you really just stop, pause for a second, and just say, okay, God, I'm ready when you are, and really mean it, I can guarantee you your life will go exponentially through the roof. And there will be things that will happen in your life that you didn't even know that you needed, but you will not find them unless you learn how to surrender. So, okay, I hope all my rambling thoughts made sense to y'all. But that's something that I really felt like that was a message on my heart, that surrender is a place that we need to learn how to stay and be happy in, and really not push ourselves to places where we think we should be, and just always allow God to move in our lives in the way that he sees fit. But yeah, stop self-sabotaging, stop having high expectations for things to happen, and really just be grateful for the space that you're in. All right, on that note, make sure you guys like, subscribe, write in the comments anything else you guys want to talk about. If you guys want to see anybody, or if there's a subject you want to speak about, just make sure that you let us know. Love you, babies. See you next time.